There are an endless number of things that make Major League Baseball unique from other professional sports leagues in the United States, but one of the biggest differences has to be the yearly player draft. Other leagues are mostly similar with how they run their drafts, but of course, MLB has to be out of the ordinary. There are a lot of different aspects regarding the MLB draft when compared to other sports, but perhaps the biggest difference is the amount of players that get taken. Historically, there were at least 40 rounds to the draft, with well over 1,000 players getting drafted on a yearly basis. For comparison, there are 260 players drafted within 7 rounds by the NFL, 60 players within 2 rounds by the NBA, and 225 players in 7 rounds by the NHL. Yes, I'm aware those are only the averages. The exact number can sway. However, even if you add up all of those 3 leagues' draft numbers, that's not even half of how many players got taken by baseball teams in the past. MLB curbed their enormous draft by cutting it in half starting in 2021. So now there are only 20 rounds with about 600 players taken. Since the draft is smaller, that means we'll never see a player get taken in the thousands ever again. Earlier this month, Cleveland Guardians infielder Daniel Schneemann made his MLB debut, and he was drafted in 2018. Picked in the 33rd round, 1003rd overall. There's a decent chance Schneemann will be the last player ever to debut who was drafted in the 1000s. Speaking of players taken in the thousands, that raises a few interesting points. Take a guess right now what you think is the lowest placement a baseball player was ever drafted. According to Baseball Reference, the lowest draft pick in MLB history came during the 1996 draft, when the New York Yankees selected Aaron Amundsen with the 1,740th pick in the 100th round. Why did the Yankees draft 100 players in 1996? Couldn't tell you at all. Maybe they were set at 99 players, but wanted to round up. While Amundsen's record will never get broken, he didn't sign with New York and never played in Major League Baseball. Although, that opens up another question. Who was the lowest selected player in MLB draft history that did play in Major League Baseball? The answer to that question is Clay Condrey, who was drafted 6 spots earlier than Amundsen with the 1,734th pick in the 94th round of the 1996 MLB draft by the New York Yankees. Who is this player, and how did he go from being selected that low to playing in the big leagues? Clay Condrey was a pitcher who played in Major League Baseball for 6 seasons from 2002 to 2009. He spent the most time with the Philadelphia Phillies, but also played for the San Diego Padres. In his career, Condrey threw over 250 innings across 179 games. He went 18-12 with a 4.10 ERA, 105 adjusted ERA, a 1.470 WHIP, struck out 5.1 batters per 9 innings, and earned 1.6 WAR. His stats don't sound impressive, but Condrey had some good seasons and notable moments that we'll get back to later. First things first, why were there over 1,700 players selected before Condrey, and how did he make his way into a staple with the Phillies bullpen? Interestingly, Condrey's path to the major leagues started before 1996. After he graduated high school in 1994, he attended a tryout hosted by the Cincinnati Reds, but instead was told to go to college. So Condrey enrolled in Angelina, a junior college in Texas, which was where New York drafted him in the 94th round. Condrey opted not to sign with New York, and instead transferred to McNeese State University to play out the rest of his college baseball career. In his senior year at McNeese, he suffered from elbow injuries, which he believed to be the end of his athletic career. After he graduated, Clay left the idea of a professional baseball career, but his father, Lee, didn't. While reading the newspaper one day, the senior Condrey took note of a baseball tryout near their hometown in the summer of 1998, so Clay decided to attend it. That tryout led to a bigger one that had more scouts, many of which were impressed with Condrey's 92-mile-per-hour fastball. Reportedly, nearly a dozen teams called him, asking if he'd like to join them for free. Seriously. Condrey stated that the team said nothing when he asked them how much they were offering. That was until a very young and inexperienced scout from the San Diego Padres called and offered $500. For Condrey, that was a good enough offer for him, so he accepted that deal to play minor league baseball. From there, Condrey simply worked his way up in the Padres farm system. He was promoted to Single A in 1999, Double A in 2000, and Triple A in 2001 before making his major league debut for San Diego in 2002, 6 years after being selected in the 94th round. By the way, you may have heard of the scout that signed him. His name is Theo Epstein, aka 3-time World Series winning general manager Theo Epstein. In that 2002 rookie season, the 26-year-old posted a sparkling 1.69 ERA in 26 and 2/3 innings, but after a disastrous start to 2003, he was demoted to the minor leagues and wouldn't return to the majors for some time. Before the 2004 season, the Padres traded him to the Phillies, where he toiled away in the minor leagues for 3 years from 2004 to 2006. While he initially struggled, Condrey eventually turned it around when he was converted into a reliever. He had a 1.93 ERA in over 50 innings in AAA in 2006, prompting Philadelphia to call him up to the active roster, his first appearance in the big leagues in 3 years. In 28 and 2/3 innings in 2006 for the Phillies, he recorded a 3.14 ERA and 151 adjusted ERA. He earned a spot on the team for 2007, but struggled throughout the season, causing the Phillies to demote and recall him several times throughout the year. He had an ERA over 5 in 50 innings that season, but a strong finish saw him get added to Philadelphia's playoff roster. On October 4th, 2007, in Game 2 of the National League Division Series, and more than 11 years since he was drafted, Clay Condrey made his playoff debut. How many people would have guessed that someone drafted that low would one day pitch on baseball's biggest stage? In that lone playoff appearance that year, Condrey pitched decently, allowing 1 run and striking out 2 across 1 and 2/3 innings. In the following season, Condrey was competing for a place in the bullpen and he made the team out of spring training. He may have struggled in 2007, but he became a hidden gem for the Phillies in 2008. That year, in 69 innings pitched out of relief, Condrey recorded a 3.26 ERA and 134 adjusted ERA. He was once again added to the playoff roster and pitched in 2 games for the Phillies that postseason. The Phillies went on to win the World Series that year, and while he was on the roster for it, Condrey did not make an appearance in the Fall Classic. It's such an enormous shame in my opinion. Imagine the story of a player getting drafted that low, to signing with a team for a measly $500 as an undrafted free agent, to spending several seasons in the minor leagues, to being that close to pitching in the World Series. While he didn't appear in the 2008 World Series, we can all agree that he was a vital part of the Phillies that year, and perhaps the club doesn't even make the playoffs without him. Plus, how many people can say they pitched in the playoffs for the team that won the World Series? In 2009, Condrey once again was fantastic for Philadelphia, earning an ERA of 3.00 and an adjusted ERA of 141 in 42 innings out of the bullpen. He unfortunately was left off the postseason roster that year due to an oblique injury, and in a surprising turn of events, the Phillies let him walk in free agency in the offseason. He signed with the Minnesota Twins and was prepared to join their bullpen for 2010 before suffering a slew of injuries right before opening day. He would miss the entire season and never pitched in Major League Baseball ever again. While that may have been an anticlimactic end to his big league career, it's still an incredible feat that Clay Condrey managed to play in Major League Baseball in the first place, and he was no slouch of a pitcher. For a brief period of time, Condrey was one of the best relievers out there. A reliable bullpen piece for multiple World Series bound teams, and a player who spent 6 seasons in Major League Baseball. Not bad for someone that was picked in the 94th round, picked behind 1,733 players.